Hey everybody, it's your friend Sarmate here, and we're back with another episode of Settlement Survival. I hope you're having a fantastic and amazing day today. In this episode, we're going to get into a little bit more food processing things and maybe even some logistics things. I'd like to get some better numbers going on here. So kind of in that thought, I was looking at our farms in the last harvest season, and the vast majority of the farm was getting wasted. These new ones over in here. I didn't really catch the other one. So I added in another worker in each one of them for a total of 4 workers per farm, which it's a lot. It's a lot of workers per farm, I think. And so I want to work on that a little bit. Try and get some logistics in. So I have a storage yard right here even, and it was still too much. I watched one worker leave the field and walk over in this direction, and I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. We got to keep our eye on them over in here once the harvest starts here. It's already July, so it'll be shortly. Let's go ahead and check out our technology tree. We were talking about getting some food processing, and I missed something with the soap from the last episode. We have to have salt nowadays for soap, so we're going to go ahead and grab salt making and food processing. It's going to give us a handful of buildings here. So salt making is going to give us the salt works and the curing workshop, and then the food processor is going to give us a vegetable processing plant and the butcher. So a couple of pretty good buildings there. So I want to just see what happens here with these farms. So in the last year, you can see about 1,000 output from this field. So we'll just watch and see what develops here as they start to pull in the rice. And before winter hits, I want these fields to be empty. That's what I'm working for. And a way to help with that is if we continue to work down our logistics tree here. We go for backpacks. That would be a good thing to get. Or hand carts. That would be a good thing to get. But the hand carts are going to require steel, which is a little bit far out. And backpacks are going to require cotton cloth. We don't have cotton seeds, so that's also going to be a little bit of a difficulty to get to. It looks like now with the 4 workers in September, at least, most of our fields are going to be clear of rice. So that's a super nice thing to see. If we look at this farm right here that is empty, last year we had 740 output. This year, 1495. Almost double the output of the farm from putting one more worker on there. It just shows you how much of the food is being wasted. So that is probably going to be plenty of food. Now, if we look at our graph mode food, we're looking fantastic for food. I would even maybe take some of these farms out of here since we're doing that well with food now all of a sudden, just because I added a few more workers to it. So I would imagine in that case, these farms with 2 people, these are slightly smaller farms. These are the 8x8s. Are probably wasting a good amount of food as well, and have been for a long time now, which is unfortunate. So I think what we'll do is let's just leave these at 2 for now, keep our eyes on it, and when we get a bit more close to planting time, then we will go ahead and add another worker on there for 3 workers per field. Again, it's a lot, but I feel like that's what we have to do at this point. Let's come back down over in here, and we are going to need to get some salt from the river. So we're going to go ahead and grab our salt works. And hey, this is a new configuration of this building, so I got to remember that the entrance is on the left. Kind of a weird little thing. Let's see if we can add in one more here. It looks like that'll work for us. All right, 2 salt works on the way. That's good. And then once we have that, we will be able to get our curing workshop. Go ahead and check out the food ration here. So here's our curing workshop. Can process fish or meat chops and salt into salted meat or salted fish. This is kind of by some fishing docks right over in here. So I think this will be a great spot for our first curing workshop. So we'll get that guy on the way. Our butcher would also be a good thing to add in. We have a bunch of our pastures down over in here. So let's put our butcher down. And I think we'll go ahead and pop the butcher right there. Get that happening. And then finally, let's go for the veggie processing plant as well. And I think we'll go ahead and we'll pop that right next to our butcher. And of course, those 2 buildings are going to utilize the storage yard that's right here, so that it works out quite nicely. So, of course, we need some time to get that built up. We have almost 40 laborers. Awesome. We just got a batch of immigrants, so we're able to utilizing a lot of those people. We are getting kind of full on our interim housing. I have been expanding the housing down in this little neighborhood by quite a bit. We look at our marketplace. I'm pretty much maxed out on the north side there. I can work a little bit more on the south side over in here, and I definitely will. Put in a couple more houses, maybe on this little row right here as well, and we'll get that happening. It is now January, so let's go back up in here and add in the extra workers like we just mentioned. And I'm curious to see what our food is going to look like once we get those workers in there too. Quite a few workers happening here. So since we're doing so well with laborers, I'm not terribly worried about having a ton of people on food. If we need to flex some people out of there, we absolutely do that. And since we don't have any more laborers on the timeline right now, I don't think I'm going to add in more houses this minute. But there's something that I want to point out. So this is our first area, right, where we began the town. I had a chapel up over in here where these two houses are now. And I had 4 houses down over in here. And I looked at somebody just randomly, and it said that they were missing worship. So I looked, and the chapel that was sitting up here, the houses that were over in this side were outside of the range. So something to keep in mind when you're working on your town is make sure that, especially in the beginning, that your initial chapel and initial theater, all these beginning things that you add in the beginning are covering all your houses that you want covered. Which is something to keep in mind. I noticed that I was a little bit off on my one chapel. So I made the adjustment, and it's working now. And we have a couple more houses in here. I would like to add in some more, but they aren't going to quite fit in this space. Yeah, a little bit shy. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and we'll put a storage yard in there. I'm putting storage yards in all over the place. Just trying to make up for some space that we would be normally having with some warehouses, which we could think about grabbing here pretty quickly. Looks like our curing workshop and our salt workshops are good to go. And let's go ahead, this curing workshop, we're going to go for salted fish. Got some fish, so, well, we should have some fish soon here. So we'll go ahead and get salted fish. Let's go ahead and add in a couple more workers to our docks. And that way we'll get some more fish coming in. And of course, what we could do is if we go to our stock management, go down to fish, we can absolutely ban fish. And then they will process that fish into salted fish. And since we are doing really great on food right now, and again, that lunar event is still occurring, so we're still having that benefit from our rice fields. We're going to go ahead and ban that fish, process that fish, and then we'll have a little bit better food coming in. Over on this side of the world, we got our butcher up and running. Excellent. So we're making meat chops from buffalo meat, and that's the only critter over here that would be applicable for that. So we got that happening. That's excellent. So once we get some meat chops, another thing that we could do over in this side is put in a curing workshop that will utilize those meat chops and some salt from the other side of the town and to make some of those salted meats. And again, that's going to help us with a slightly better food, just like the salted fish. That'll help our hunger and a little bit of happiness as well. So let's go ahead and check out our veggie processing plant. The veggie salad is going to be a decent thing, 15 hunger and 40 happiness. And let's go ahead and see what is required of this. This is going to require some wild veggies. We got onions, mushrooms, broccoli, chilies, pumpkin, cabbage, squash, lettuce, and tomato. None of these are rice. Then we have a lot of rice coming in, as we all know. So I think what we'll do is we'll swap one of our rice fields, or maybe 2, into a cabbage field. That way we can start to utilize our veggie processing plant, and I think that will be a good thing to do. So let's go ahead and we kind of have to wait for this season, though. Once we get out of this season, once we get the rice fields harvested up, we'll go in here and we'll change our rice seeds to cabbage seeds. We'll get that happening. Then we'll have some processed veggies in a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to turn this off until we get some cabbage happening. That's going to be a useless building for us. So just park it for a minute. Let's go back up over in here. I want to show off the soap workshop that we completed in between episodes, what we placed in the last episode. We are going to need a worker in there, of course. And then let's check out the soaps. So we have salt soap now, like I mentioned. We have lots of fats, and we're working on salt. So this is what we're going to want to have selected, is salt soap. Medicinal soap is also pretty powerful if we had enough medicinal powder. It's kind of a hard thing to get nowadays. Before, we were able to grow our own medicinal herbs, and that is what is required to make medicinal powder, but we don't have that option anymore. We have plenty of beeswax, but the only way to get those medicinal herbs is with our gatherer's hut. And we did put in another gatherer's hut in between episodes. I'll show you that. That's just going to be right here, right next door to the soap workshop. I did see a bunch of little herbs that were popping up around here, so I thought it was a decent spot. Kind of on the edge of town, but not quite too far away. And you can see we have pulled in a few veggies in the last year. Not a whole lot. It's the only way to get medicinal herbs right now. And you can see that we got 27 in the last year. So far, 20 this year. So it's working all right. I'm going to go ahead and find another spot for these, I think. I'm going to go for one more here. Let's go. We'll build a road out a little bit further, maybe. And we'll go about like right here. Okay, and that will help us as well. And we might as well plop in another apiary up there because it's going to be a little bit beneficial for the apiary to be in these more mature trees. So let's go ahead and do that. Over in here, we got our kiln factories up and running. We got one making brick, one making glass. And this was allowing us to finish up our theater. So we got theater running. And we also had a building up over in here. There's a shelter that was calling for brick. We need to have some of that. And now we really need to get some steel. Steel we're going to have to trade for, which I think that it will be okay. Since we have so many workers right now, let's go ahead and form a caravan. We're trying to utilize Lorenzo a little bit more in this playthrough. The next reputation level for Lorenzo is going to have a barbershop, which can cure the sick efficiently and also increases citizens' health. And then quick hunting, which increases the work efficiency of hunters. Now they hunt faster and in shorter periods to gather resources sooner. We're going to work towards that. So let's go ahead. We'll visit Lorenzo. I'm going to slow the game down just a bit and we'll form a caravan. Visit Lorenzo. Now we're still at this point where I don't have the technology for insurance. So I want to kind of overdo it with our workers since we do have so many. Let's really give it to it. We'll go 12.88% risk of death. That's pretty good, I think. We do have some goods that we can get out of our storage and sell for a little bit of money, including our firework. And we do even have a couple of special foods that we have banned so that we can sell it. So as you see here, we got fruitcakes, 32 a piece. We got 300 of them. We're going to sell all of those. Look at that, 11,000 coins. We're doing all right with that stuff. And I'll do a quick little check here and see if there's anything else we want to get out of our storage yards. Oh, yes, we have coffee beans. So we should have a good amount of coffee beans. Yes, we do. And so let's go ahead and we'll trade out 300 coffee beans. So let's go ahead and add those to our sell caravan. And that's pretty good. 12,649 gold coming in from all of those little sales. And then, of course, we mentioned steel. So let's grab ourselves some steel. We're going to go for 100. Purchase that. Look good, 1,300. We can handle that, no problem. And is there anything else we want to get? So I'm looking at our seeds here that we have options. So they're 10,000 a piece, which is a lot. But if we're making 12,000 in this one run, we'll still come out on top if we buy one seed. So I think we're going to go for those cotton seeds. Because remember, we were just talking about cotton at the beginning of the episode to work on some backpack stuff. Let's go for some cotton seeds. We'll get that added into our cart here. We will go ahead and form and visit Lorenzo, get some money, and then turn that into some cotton seeds. We do have the farmland over on the right side of town over in here that we could utilize. And again, talking about that farmland, let's go ahead and swap this into our cabbage seeds. Again, so that we can use our veggie processing plant for veggie salad. And then curing workshop's good to go over in here. Let's make this into salted meats. We've got meat chops over right in here, and we'll have salt here shortly. We'll go ahead and we'll plop that as our salted meat. Great, so we got a couple of more advanced foods coming in. Food is looking pretty great. I think we have a good handle on that right now. Now the next thing I want to start focusing on is going to be maybe a little bit more of the processing stuff, maybe into a mill. Or if we want to utilize that cotton seed. So we were talking about the cotton seeds. That's going to require the backpack. So what we need to do is, first of all, get the backpack technology, of course. But we need to be able to transform our cotton into cotton cloth. And we'll be able to do that with our textile mill. And we can see here, when we select the textile mill, that cotton cloth is an option. We just need to get some of that cotton. So let's go ahead. We have our textile mill ready to go. And we have one down over in here that is currently running off of some flax. So let's put in another one of these guys, and we'll make this one run off of our cotton seeds that we'll get here in a little bit. And then we will start to be able to process that stuff, and then we'll make those into some backpacks. And I think that will be great. That's going to increase our carrying capacity by 100. That's a pretty significant amount. Let's go ahead and grab that. The next thing is hand carts. We're going to need steel for that. We can't quite do that. We talked about it. We can't do it yet. So let's go take a quick peek at something else that we can work on. If we look at our health up here, it's not doing super great. So apparently logistics equipment is going to help with health. So that would, of course, be those backpacks that we were just talking about. So that's going to be great. But another thing I want to kind of do is get to the hospital. But before the hospital, we are going to need steel and luxury bedding. Kind of far out for both those things. So for the steel, at least, you can see here this is calling for mining smelting. If we go and check that out, mining smelting, we have the smelter right here. It's going to cost some clay and some cut stone. We got both of those. It's going to need iron ore and refined fuel. We got that. And so I think this would be a good next point. Let's go for the smelter. And this is going to give us the smelter, of course, and the advanced smithy. And I think that would be good. So let's go ahead and we'll grab that. And then we are going to need to find a good spot to start gathering up iron and processing all that stuff into a steel area. And I kind of like this little space right in here. We have our roads. We already have one mine planned out. And I think it would be an easy one to put in another mine here, maybe another one up in this area. So I think this little space makes sense. I'm going to plop this guy down a little bit down the way here because I want to leave some space for some things. So we have the smelter here. Let's also go for the fuel factory. Some of that happening over in here. We'll plop that guy down. Let's go right next to it. Maybe I'll put a little storage yard back up over in that space. That might be a good idea. So we got our fuel factory. We got our smelter. And then eventually we'll get our forge over in here too. But for now, this is all we need to get some steel. Some iron, some coal, some fuel factory action to make that into refined fuels, and then some iron for the smelter. So let's go ahead and we'll get our little storage yard plopped in right here in this space. Looks good. Okay, great. And then our textile mill, let's go ahead and swap that to cotton cloth. So it'll be ready once we get our cotton seeds planted. Once we get our cotton, we'll get our cotton started over in there. And then we have our textile mill good to go. And I think we need to take a second to catch our breath and see what else we are kind of short on. I did have to add in a couple of big wells. We got one right here, one down here, because we were short on some water. And this should be another thing that we should check right in here. Just make sure that we are keeping on top of it. Now we're doing great. Okay, awesome. Food, still pretty good on food. Good stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're good on wood. It looks like stone is kind of short, so we could add a couple more workers into our quarry. Let's go for 2 more workers. That's going to put us at 7 total workers. We got room for a few more there. And let's see, how much do we have left in this quarry? We might need to make another quarry here pretty quickly. Yeah, we're about 53% depleted out of there. So we'll have to probably build another quarry at some point here. But we don't have to worry about it just yet. Iron's looking good. Clothing is getting kind of low. And it looks like our tooling is getting on the low side. So we've had our hardwood nursery for a little while yet. We should have some hardwood grown already. Let's see. Wow, 1,600. Yeah, we have plenty. So let's go over to our smithy. We're going to go down here to our iron tool. And we're going to change this to hardwood tools. We're going to turn this back on. Add another worker in there. And there we go. Let's go over to this smithy, and I want to switch this one to hardwood tools as well. And now we will be making hardwood tools instead of iron tools. So I think that will be a great upgrade for the town. Better durability, and a little bit easier to make. Hardwood is only going to be using for hardwood tools, so it's a dedicated resource. I like that. We're going to go ahead and keep on that. Over in here, we started some paper a while ago, and it's doing pretty okay. Looks like we could use a little bit more attention to it. Let's put a couple more workers in there. But we have plenty of reeds coming in, 3,200. And I did add in over on this other side of the world where our research institutes are. Don't forget that you have to check the yes paper button here right in here. So we had one of them that was checked, the other one was not. They are now both checked to utilize some paper. So that's excellent. Oh, we got our apiary and stuff over in here that we added in. Let's go ahead and add some honey. And we'll leave 2 workers in there. That's great. We'll see how well these smithies do in some time here. We're still in the redwood tools. How far in the redwood tools are we? That's would be the wise thing to do is check. Yeah, we're kind of not looking great. So we did get the advanced smithy. So let's go ahead and find the advanced smithy. There it is. And let's get some of these guys going over in here someplace. I'm going to go ahead and add it in right here, and we could maybe do a road across this way. All right, so it looks like the advanced smithy is going to require some steel, so that'll be a little bit of time before that gets created. And you know what I want to do? Let's prioritize the shelter so that when we do get that steel from Lorenzo, we'll be able to put that into the shelter before any disasters arrive here. That's what I'm more worried about with that. I want to get that shelter built up. Let's just do a quick check, and it looks like they got quite a while yet, about 200 or so days until they get back from the caravan and get us those cotton seeds. And I know we checked our water graph, but we have currently 0 water, so I am going to put in another one. We got some weird space right in there that we should be able to go ahead and put a regular old well in. Ooh, I think they changed the size of this guy. We'll go ahead and plop one down right there. These are still just a little bit too big to get it in there. So that little well will be okay, I think. We'll see what that does. And now we should have a harvest of cabbage, 647. Excellent. And you know what we got to do? We got to go ahead and turn on our veggie processing plant. That's got working in there. And then let's go up over in here and we will ban cabbage so that we will specifically utilize that at our veggie processing plant. Currently we have 540, so we have eaten some of it, but that's okay. We'll still have enough going on. So cool. So our area over here is developing quite nicely. It looks like we need a little bit more stone, which we should be able to get here in time. Not too big of a deal. And then we can get started on making some steel. It looks like we've already made 20. That's awesome. So we are getting the resources we need with this stuff all right in here. It should be pretty easy to get more of it. Looks like our storage yards are plump full. I did just see we got a technology point. I think it's high time that we go ahead and get ourselves warehouses. Let's go ahead and we'll do that. We'll get warehouses, and then let's go ahead and put our first warehouse right there. That'll be an awesome thing to get going. And then let's go ahead and sprinkle a couple of these around. I think that would be a good idea too. We'll go ahead and put one right there, and then let's go up over in this area, and we'll plop another one down. Go right there. That'll be all right. And then, oh, this area that's over here that I'm struggling to do something with. Let's go ahead and we'll put in a couple of these 4x4 warehouses, which should fit in here pretty well. Looks good. We'll get 2 in there. There's a weird 3 space there, so that's not going to quite work for us. Kiln factories look like they are at max cap on their production. Let's up that. I'm going to go for like 9,999 on a brick, because when we get to wonders, we're going to need that much anyways. So let's get it cooking. Let's go ahead and go 500. I know wonders are quite far out right now, but in the future here, we'll be getting into corrals and some plantations. All those guys are going to use some brick stuff, so we want to have some brick stored up. So we'll go ahead and do that. And with all that said and done, I think that's going to be it for this episode of Settlement Survival. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a fantastic and amazing rest of your evening, day, or night.